Welcome. Today is Tuesday, June 1st, 2021. This is the Board of Commissioner meeting. The time is 9 a.m. The public is invited to watch the meeting via live stream link on the county website. Attending remotely is the media. Attending in person is Steve Ock, Sheriff, Adam Osefeld, Planning and Zoning, Soil and Water, Jackie Ock, Lisa Chaplin, Kathleen McAdams, HHS, Denise Gaida, Auditor Treasurer, Chris Pelzer, Coordinator. All the commissioners are present, and we will stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
I have none, Madam Chair.
I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Kircher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Knizel. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next will be, I should say opposed, I know there isn't. Next will be the consent items.
Consent items today are the meeting minute approval, May 18th, 2021, Sacred Heart Area School one-day liquor license, and I'd like to note that they're just physically moving the location of this event. In prior years, it's always been held at the Sacred Heart's Staples Church in Staples, Minnesota, but due to COVID, they have moved their event to Moran Township for this year. Then we have a hire of a seasonal recreational assistant, McCoy Reimer, hire of a full-time road deputy, Cole Youngbauer, hire of a part-time correctional officer, Shayla Bacon.
Okay, hearing the consent items, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion by Erickson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And passes.
Auditor treasurer items today are auditor warrants for May of 2021. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the May 2021 auditor warrants with an ACH and a regular manual payment totaling in the amount of $9,435,776.28.
Is there a motion for the auditor warrants?
So move.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Erickson. We'll do roll call.
Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Knizel,
Yes.
Commissioner Kircher,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker.
Yes.
The next item I have then is the commissioner warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling in the amount of $87,582.10.
Is there a motion for commissioner warrants?
So moved.
Motion by Knizel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Newman. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll do roll call.
Commissioner Knizel,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kircher,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker.
Yes.
Next item I have is the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Services Commissioner warrants with an ACH and a manual payment totaling in the amount of $33,741.76.
I'll ask for a motion for approval for the Health and Human Services Commissioner warrants.
So moved.
I have a motion by Erickson and a second by Kircher. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll do roll call.
Commissioner Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kircher,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Knizel,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker.
Yes.
Last item I have today then is the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Services SSIS warrants with an ACH and a regular manual payment totaling in the amount of $82,405.97.
Is there a motion for approval for the Health and Human Services SSIS warrants?
So moved.
Motion by Kneisel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Newman. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll do roll call.
Commissioner Kneisel?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kircher?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes. Next will be administration. Chris?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a board action this morning to remove the capacity restrictions for indoor settings, including public meetings. The background for this is Todd County has been following CDC and MDH guidance along with executive orders on indoor capacity restrictions and social distancing due to COVID-19. On May 28, 2021, Governor Walz ended capacity restrictions on indoor and outdoor activity. The options are to remove capacity restrictions for all indoor settings, including public meetings, as of June 1st, 2021, or do not remove, and the recommendation is to remove the capacity restrictions.
Okay, is there a motion for the approval for the removal of the capacity restrictions for indoor settings, including public meetings?
So moved.
Motion by Kircher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Erickson. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And it carries.
Thank you. My second board action is to approve the lease agreement for the Long Prairie Hockey Association. The background for this is the Long Prairie Hockey Association has expressed interest in renewing the lease agreement with Todd County for use of the Expo Building. Discussion was held at May 4th and May 18th Commissioners' Work Sessions, and a revised lease agreement has been created with amendments to the terms and conditions. The options are to renew the Long Prairie Hockey Association lease agreement with the presented terms and conditions, do not renew the Long Prairie Hockey Association lease agreement with the presented terms and conditions, or to renew the lease agreement with different terms. And the recommendation is to renew the Long Prairie Hockey Association lease agreement with the presented terms and conditions.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I'd like to have just a little bit of,
Lost our screen.
oh, there it came back on again. Just a little bit of open discussion about this. The last time it went through the facility meeting, I had some questions and we kind of went through them all and had answers for them. But the ones that I had questions on were, I believe it was 15 keys that they were leaving out that they hockey requested, and I'm not sure if I'm correct on the number or not.
You are, Madam Chair.
You are?
Yep.
Okay, so there was 15 keys being let out for the hockey to be used, which I questioned the number of keys. One of the other things I questioned was for the, they wanted, the length of time was for 7 months. And that's something, you know, I understand the first year wanting the 7-month time to get ready. They have a lot of different things they have to do within the facilities. For further years, you know, to me, it was a question if they needed the facility for 7 months. The other thing was the cost. We had it at $4,500, which remained the same as the past years. Adding the heat and electricity to it is where we came up with a larger sum of money. And I also, in here, it's a 3-year contract. I question if we wanted the 3-year contract for the first year. There could be a lot of wear and tear on the building that we don't see right now. We did add a clause in this contract. I believe, Chris, it was that we could terminate the contract, either party could terminate the contract within 30 days. Is that?
That is correct, Madam Chair. That's under item 11.
Okay. So with that being said, those are the questions that I had kind of going forward. I mean, we put a lot of money in this building and we want to make sure it's being used, but we want to also, in some ways, protect it if we can. So with that discussion ahead of time, and I don't know if anyone else has any questions or comments they'd like to make. Otherwise, I would call for a motion.
I'll just comment too in regards to the same meeting, and I think it went very well, and I think we tried to put everything in the contract to make sure that we had proper authority to review that after a year and look into it and whatnot, and I think it was a good point to look at. So it's gonna be looked at hard after the first year of use, so. But with that, I will make a motion for option number 1.
Okay, I have a motion for the approval of the Long Prairie lease agreement with the present terms and conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by, Erickson, second by Kircher. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And it carries.
Thank you.
Good morning, Steve.
Got a few items up for bid today. Our first one is gonna be the Central Square mapping upgrade. Background is Sheriff's Office desires to upgrade their current dispatch mapping software to a server-based mapping solution. This will allow for better functionality and location validation for dispatch to provide more accurate information to responders and location data entry into our computer-aided dispatch system. Central Square provided a quote to upgrade the mapping system for a total of $9,087.34 with an annual maintenance fee of $1,624.84. This upgrade is an allowable 911 fee expenditure, and the maintenance fee will replace the current annual maintenance fee for mapping. Options are to accept the quote from Central Square for server-based mapping, or B, not to accept the quote from Central Square for server-based mapping upgrade. Recommendation is to accept the quote from Central Square for server-based mapping, and it is a budgeted item out of 911 fund.
Okay, is there a motion for the Central Square mapping update?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Kircher, second by Newman for approval, I believe, to be accepted.
Yes.
Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And it carries. Okay, Steve?
Thank you. Second topic I got is the 2020 Federal Boating Supplemental Equipment Grant. Yeah, supplemental. Background on that is to accept the 2020 Federal Boating Supplemental Equipment Grant in the amount of $4,439. This is items that we buy, like buoys for the lakes. We can get extra props. I believe we're getting a few life jackets. Mainly it's buoys this year. We tried for a boat, that got denied, but the buoys and some other things were accepted. So options are to approve the 2020 Federal Supplemental Equipment Grant, or number 2, do not approve. Todd County recommendation is to approve the 2020 Federal Boating Supplemental Grant in the amount of $4,439.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion by Erickson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Knizel. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And it carries.
Thank you. Third item bid is the 2021 Federal Boat and Water Grant. Background is to accept the 2021 State Boat and Water Safety Grant in an amount of $6,129. This is stuff that we pay our staff to go be out on the water for water patrol. Options are to approve the 2021 State Boat and Water Safety Grant, or 2, do not approve. Recommendations, of course, is to approve the 2021 State Boat and Water Safety Grant in the amount of $6,129.
Is there a motion for the approval of the Federal Boat and Water Grant?
So move.
Motion by Newman, is there a second?
Second for discussion.
Second by Kircher. Discussion?
Is that going down, Steve?
Yeah, it's never enough to cover what we.
I know, $6,000 is.
Yeah, I think we had like 8,000 one year, and
Yeah,
I don't know if they're getting a little tighter with the money, or
well, that doesn't even cover half your costs.
it was a difficult year for them with all this COVID and people working from home.
Yeah.
This should have been done a long time ago, but when I'd email them, say, hey, where does this stuff at? Or, suddenly the next day I'd get it, and it's been a painful process this year.
Well, really, when you figure it out with $6,000, there isn't much time the deputies can spend on the lakes. I mean, plus your equipment with this.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a boat, you got gas, you got everything
We got the
else.
seasonal people at $16 an hour, so we can stretch a little bit,
Right.
but
Goodness sakes.
yeah, even with the 8,000, it doesn't,
I know.
well, you were the same
Yeah.
boat, it doesn't cover.
Dropping it doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
the conversation I've had with a couple of DNR employees, they basically have told me the DNR is broke,
Yeah,
so they
yeah,
have no money.
they're cutting everything, seems like.
Yep.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
All right, my last item is the change of status of Tyler Teal has requested a change in his employment status from full-time to part-time. This change will be in effect June 6th of 2021. Options are, number one, to approve Tyler Teal's employment status change from full-time to part-time, effective June 6th, 2021. Or, let's see, recommendations, of course, is to approve Tyler's employment status from full-time to part-time, June 6, 2021. Basically, he's looking at going and doing some farming and has another opportunity where he can spend some more time with home with his kids, and he's jumping on it.
Okay, is there a motion for approval of employment status change?
So moved.
Motion by Erickson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kanizel. Discussion?
Madam Chair, is he
Yes.
CO or is he a deputy?
Deputy. He's doing a lot of the SRO work, school resource. So, and then in the summertime, he's another deputy that we have working road shifts. So we already have another deputy that's interested in SRO work. So
So how does this affect your change then from full-time to part-time as far as full-time deputies?
for part-time, it's going to actually help us
Right,
because
but-
all of our part-timers we have now are going to be moving into these full-time spots.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. What, how much time he's going to be able to
Yeah.
work is to be seen.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, Jackie.
Morning.
I asked Lisa to come up a little early. She hasn't made it up yet, so if you would be okay, I'd like to start with the COVID-19 update.
Oh,
You
yes.
all right with that? Thank you. All right.
She's here.
Oh, she made it. We could go back to the original. Come on up, Travis. I'll give you this one, so you can fit in it. And then we're gonna have you speak into the microphone so everybody can see you. Here you go. So our first, board action form presented to you, we'll present to you today is regarding, the fraud prevention, investigation, and prosecution and interagency agreement. Some background: Todd County Health and Human Services, the Todd County Sheriff, and Todd County Attorney desire to establish a cooperative procedures for the effective enforcement of food support in Minnesota Family Investment Program, also known as MFIP. Rules and regulations, investigation and prosecution of food support and MFIP fraud cases, and for the effective enforcement, investigation, and prosecution of other public assistance programs fraud cases. Options: to approve the Fraud Prevention Investigation Program Cooperative Agreement between Todd County Health and Human Services, Todd County Sheriff, and Todd County Attorney, or to not approve. It's our recommendation that the Todd County Board of Commissioners approve the following by motion. Approve the Fraud Prevention Investigation Program Cooperative Agreement between Todd County Health and Human Services, Todd County Sheriff, and the Todd County Attorney. I have Lisa here to talk a little bit about the program, but also Travis, who helps us with those investigations. So I'll let them take that over for you from here.
Good morning.
Morning.
Since our program started last February, to date, we've had 47 referrals completed, sent over to Travis by the eligibility workers, and one that Travis initiated on his own. Out of those 48 referrals that have been completed, we had 6 disqualification waivers signed, meaning that, again, it's administrative, so the client is accepting the disqualification and either admitting to the intentional program violation or not admitting but still accepting the disqualification. And to date, we've had 3 hearings. So these are the clients that don't sign the waiver, and they request to have a hearing by an administrative judge through the Department of Human Services. We've had 3 hearings. 1 was upheld, and the other 2 are still pending. Correct?
Correct.
That was. And on to the savings then. When we calculate the savings out, to date we have saved $97,700. And the total overpayments cited have been $94,991. So the state, the cost to benefit ratio performance standard is closely monitored by the state, and FPI programs are expected to meet the standard. The cost benefit ratio is calculated by dividing the program's financial benefit or return by the amount of the administrative cost to run the program. A $3 benefit ratio is the benchmark expectation for cost effectiveness. We are currently at $7.97, so doing very well. Travis does a great job with the investigations and getting the information that we need to either go forward with the ADH or to cite the overpayments. And the eligibility workers are doing a wonderful job as well. It's a huge amount of work to go back and cite those overpayments, so it's going well.
How has COVID played into this over the last year? I mean,
it depends. We could still make fraud referrals, but, and then it varied by program. Medical assistance, we couldn't cite any overpayments for any of the months during the pandemic or the federal emergencies, so we could cite no overpayments from March of 2020 through now, through the end of the public health emergency, or these numbers would be even higher.
okay, yeah.
For the cash and food, we would still go ahead and do the referral. Food remain the same. We would cite overpayments. Policy remain the same, but as far as cash, there's a lot of waivers in place, and the requirement for them to report was waived. So it would be rare that we could cite an overpayment for any of those months as well.
Madam Chair, before we vote, I'd like to have some discussion.
Yeah.
Number one, I do appreciate that there's a collaboration between the 3 agencies, but my question is, are there criminal prosecutions from any of these, or are they administrative collections on civil penalties instead?
To date, that's what we have. We have referred 4 cases for criminal
And
prosecution.
the results are?
Still pending at this point, from what I hear.
Okay, it's my preference that there is criminal prosecution, because otherwise how do you send a message to these people that this stuff is illegal and improper? But from what I've seen and heard, I haven't read anything in the paper about anything about fraud, criminal complaints, or anything going to court. So, and the other question I have is, do we receive 3D or 4D funding for this from the federal government? Because there is funding that will support a prosecutor and part of your law enforcement that does that. Are we seeking that funding, or?
For law enforcement, we get 40% of his wage cover.
Under 4D or 3D, is it?
I'm not even sure.
I'm not sure either. I'll check that out.
Okay. I do appreciate you doing that, because there is funding available to do that, so.
Well, and we did receive a grant to operate the FPI program.
But I would think that this county board feels quite adamant that there should be some criminal prosecution. I don't know if you do or don't, but I do, and it only sends a message to the public that we don't tolerate this kind of activity. Now, if we have 100,000, almost 100,000 in overpayments, are we getting that 100,000 back?
Well, yes, sometimes. Not always. Payment plans are scheduled or set up, and then Carrie does revenue recapture on each case, so the tax returns.
Revenue recapture is probably pretty minimal. They were taking, if they're doing fraud, they're probably not working.
And then they're disqualified.
Yeah,
Not necessarily, because a lot of the overpayments are through our medical assistance overpayments, and the majority of those people are working. So I know we just got a tax return for, I think it was just a little under 2,000. So,
we still gotta get to 100,000 though.
right. That's right.
The start.
Well,
It is.
well, it's a
Yeah.
start, but I still think that this is a place where we need to dig our heels in and say, okay, we're not gonna tolerate this crap, and we should be doing and should have been doing it for a long time.
Right.
Sending messages to these people, the public, that, you know, we're more than want to help people that need help, but we don't need to help the criminals take advantage of these funds, because the ones that are taking advantage of these funds could have went to other people that really need the funds.
I agree, and I agree that we should be, prosecuting some of these cases, because it does send a message, and we have seen that in the past.
Yeah.
When we had,
It's a deterrent then, so.
that's correct. But as far as the,
Dave, real quick too, before we brought Travis on board, it was a co-op between counties doing
Yeah,
the same
I
work.
know.
And
Nothing got done,
we had,
yeah,
the one year, just over $700,
yeah.
because the investigator at that point was out of a different county. Obviously, they're gonna put the bulk of their time in
Yeah.
that county, and for that investigator to even drive here was an hour plus to even get to Todd.
I wasn't supportive of that either, but
Yeah, so.
just so you know.
It's been a great benefit to Todd County so far.
And I think we're playing some catch-up, so I
Yeah.
hope,
And I think working through this COVID times, your hands are tied more than ever before.
right. And with the fraud prevention program, the intent is is for future savings. So to get those people closed, and so those benefits don't continue to go out. But,
But thank you, Travis, for doing this and getting to some of these people on their tails to get on them and find them and figure out what's going on here, because if we don't put a stop to this, it's gonna mount up to 200 to 300,000, and, you know, what are we just doing? Opening the door for the bad guys to come in and say, here, take advantage of this, so, thank you. That was my speech, so.
Any other discussion? Otherwise, I'll ask for a motion. Oh, any other comments
yeah.
first?
No,
Travis, any?
I just want to
Travis?
say, yeah, thanks. Lisa and her staff have been great, helping me with the rules, and there's so many rules that are above my head. I would assume that. So just anytime I call them guys or ask a question, Lisa or any of her staff, it's been great. So thanks for that.
Thank you. I'll then ask for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Kircher, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kanizel. Discussion?
Yep, Madam Chair, I just want to make a comment and follow up on what Travis just said, is the rules are too complicated and so complicated. That needs to be corrected too, because why are the rules so complicated? They should be simple for us to even follow and try and do your jobs. And the federal government and state government make the rules ridiculous. And so you're trying to figure out which one is right and which one you follow, so. Sorry, there's my speech again, but I just think this whole thing is nuts, the way it goes, the rules and regulations, and
it's getting worse
I
every
know,
day.
so. They give you a $500 or 500-page booklet to follow, and it's stupid, so,
For each program, yeah.
yeah.
Any further comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? and carries. And thank you for the work you're doing.
We just wanted to make sure that
Thank you,
Travis
Lisa.
is seen and thanked for the
Yeah.
work that he does, as well as the staff that refer to him. So, good. And maybe we could start working on some prosecution.
Hope so.
Okay, my last board action form is regarding a COVID update. I'm hoping that this will be my last one as things are ramping down, so I'm going to be asking for permission on that as well. So to give you an update, as of June 1st, 2021, Todd County has had 2,848 lab-confirmed positive cases and 32 related deaths. Cases no longer needing isolation is at 99%, which is 2,842. And again, those dates are calculated 10 days from their test date, which would have been May 22nd or earlier. Males, 46.5%, and females being at 52.9%. Age range, again, anywhere from 2 months to 103 years. Case average range from 43.4 years of age. Total COVID tests performed in Todd County as of May 27th is 31,219, which is an 8.4 cumulative positivity rate. Positivity rate for May 9th through the 15th is 5.3 for Todd County, and statewide is 3.8%. Todd County Health and Human Services COVID vaccine administration. First dose is 1,828. Second dose given is 1,750, with a total of 3,578 total doses. 36.9% of Todd County residents over the age 16 plus have received at least one vaccine dose. 34.6% have completed the series. We do have a COVID clinics today. We have aligned those with our immunization clinics from this point forward, which is the first Tuesday and the fourth Monday of each month. So we'll be offering 2 clinics each month. 13 are scheduled today, total. We have a case rate of 10.23 for Todd County, and those dates are from May 15th to May 28th. So that has remained low, but it has come down nicely over time. And that positivity rate was on 19 positive cases. So I can't remember if we did a vaccine bus review last time.
Yeah, you did.
You did, okay. So we did do a presentation with the state through a leadership briefing with other vaccine distributors, or I would say givers in the state of Minnesota and local public health. And we just kind of talked about what we talked about at the board last time, what went well, what didn't go well, and then our participation and how we got the word out. So I think that was recepted very well, and as they move through the state with that bus, I'm hoping they'll take some of the things that didn't go well and learn in moving forward. So
Do you have many people show up at them?
actually, not as many as we liked, but it still was some. So in Long Prairie, we had 51 vaccines given. Again, that was that 1-dose vaccine, which is Johnson & Johnson. 32 in Clarissa, 17 in Bertha, and 31 in Staples. So a total of 131. So, yeah. So again, as school is for Long Prairie ending this week for the school year, mask mandates, as we talked about earlier, are lifting. We are ramping down from the vaccine. We'll be working with the schools as ages possibly change for these vaccines as trials are completed. And hopefully offering vaccines to our younger population when we can through the schools, possibly for Roundup in the fall. Working with our hospitals as they can continue to offer vaccines. We'll have those clinics twice a week, but also looking at some opportunities within, like we'll be at the Browerville days offering vaccine there. We'll be offering some for our fair and any other communities that wish to do that. We are reaching out and asking if there's any interest in that, but
Jackie, I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
With the governor's order, executive order still standing in place, how does that continue to affect you? And does it how can we try to have him lift his executive order, I guess?
Affect me in our department?
Yes, I'm asking.
We have a
yes.
home care department that has its own regulations, so we're following those home care rules and regulations. I did reach out to the home care, Minnesota Home Care Association and ask when they were gonna lift those. As we see clients out in the community, we are still gonna be masking, especially those that have sensitivities to what their health conditions or some health conditions. So we'll be following those rules and regulations for home care while they're still in place. When I did reach out, I think it was last week or the week before, once the governor made the announcement, they were not prepared that this was going to be lifted. So they did state that in the next week or two, they would be lifting. They were looking at lifting some of those restrictions within the office. So we are still masked within Health and Human Services due to those regulations, hoping that those will be lifted soon.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Jackie?
Has there been any projection into fall? You know, you said school was ending, and of course, the schools all followed through with the mask, or decided to follow through with the mask thing until the end of the years. Is there talk about fall or anything like that yet, or not? Or are they lifting them as of the end of the school year?
I'm guessing that's going to go based on what things are looking at in the fall. I'm hoping as people become more vaccinated, those restrictions will not come back. And I think that's what their goal is, as they're offering incentives now for people to be vaccinated.
They haven't talked
That-
about it per se
No,
or anything?
not really.
Any other questions or comments? Boy, you're getting off easy today, huh?
I know, I'm ready to put this in the rearview mirror.
I think we all are.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. We will go into standing reports. Auditor Treasurer.
The only thing I have to report is that May is complete, and we collected taxes of 113% of our 50% goal to be at in May. 9.1 was paid to the county's portion, and 8.9 million was paid to cities, townships, and schools. And that's all settled out and has been sent. So it was a very, very productive month.
Oh, very good. Commissioners' reports.
I have nothing.
Just, Madam Chair, looking forward to getting back to our committee meetings where we can meet in person. Rod and I are on a committee together, and the other night they had a meeting and they had required masks. And I think they're still gonna require them until we pull something. They said something about OSHA required us to wear masks, and Rod and I both questioned that, whether that was true or not. But anyway, the library, Great Regional Library, I think, is pulling their mask requirement and getting back to normal there. So I'm just looking forward to getting back to normal meetings. So
Along with that, I had a Region 5 meeting on Thursday evening, and first time we've met since COVID, mask-free and as in person. So that was a first for us. It was good to see everybody again.
Yep.
Yes. Any other comments from the commissioners? Otherwise, Chris?
I have nothing.
No comments? With that, then, if nothing more is to come before the board, we will recess until June 15th. And thank you. And then we will go into work session. You guys want a 5-minute break? Yes. Okay. Starting the commissioner work session, attending remotely is the media, attending in person, Lauren Feldbaum, Public Works, Adam Osefeld, Planning, Zoning, Soil and Water, Chris Pelzer, Coordinator, Denise Guida, Auditor Treasurer, and all commissioners are present. And we will go ahead and start with Lauren, and it's got to do with the Fairgrounds, Todd County Fairgrounds.
Yes, thank you, and good morning, everybody. So the background with this was, this spring, Public Health did a fantastic job with our COVID-19 vaccinations, and I believe the updated expo building worked amazing. The only negative part about that was the timing of the activity, and it was during the spring thaw. And with all the vehicle traffic and the slope of the area and the lack of gravel, the parking lot became an absolute mess. There was really not a lot we could do. We went out there and dissed it quite often to air it out, but unless you have Mother Nature on your side, there isn't a lot we can do. So based on that condition and conversation with the facilities committee, I reached out to our contractor, Knife River Aggregate, since they're gonna be in the area, to see if they'd just provide us a quote that I could bring back to facilities committee just for discussion. They provide quotes all the time free of charge, that's what they do, so it didn't cost us anything. And basically, if we look at the aerial photo right here, this is kind of what the general area of what's being used right now. So I'll just, do we have the pointer?
Want to minus it out a little bit?
Or I can just stand to do this. So this is basically the north side of the expo building. And that's the west side kind of. So what they do is this, and this is the, what do you call it, the livestock building?
Livestock, yeah.
So the southern driveway, you can come in, and this is the general area where people park if attending an event at the expo building. We did a little area here where people could drive around, pull out and back in a trailer here, whether it's a cattle trailer, contractor trailer, whatever. And then the big flat area here, where the water would come off this roof, this side of the roof, and it all would flow this way, and then there's this area over here, back over to the north. So that's the general area that's being used right now, that I had the contractors provide us quotes on that. We can modify that in the field, depends on, you know, the facility committee's opinion, or whoever wants to add to the project. This is just what I saw out there, so that's what I had the contractor's quote on. So based on that, if we can go to the next slide, please, Denise. The contractor provided, one of them provided this very good detailed estimate as far as, you know, the radiuses, the widths, the locations of all the pavement, being the expo building on the top side, and then the egg building or livestock. I can't remember that. Feels like a Monday morning. So that's kind of the outlook of what that looks like. And then going to the next one, here we start to talk about the quotes we received. As I mentioned, first and foremost, we went out to Knife River Aggregate because they're doing our paving work this year, and I thought they would probably be our low quote. But we went and reached out to some other ones. Ideal Construction out of Staples, being a local Todd County contractor. If we want to go back up a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
They provided a quote, and I'll get into these a little more in depth as we move on. But Ideal gave us a quote. Moving down, we'll go down to Riley Brothers. Riley Brothers is kind of out of that Glenwood area. They do a lot of private work in this area. I reached out to them. And also, obviously, Knife River Corporation. So scrolling down, we move on to kind of, we can zoom out a little bit. That'd be awesome.
What do you mean?
Minus.
Okay. He does it opposite when he says it.
So the base bid I have them do is up here. Basically, shape the lot, remove any bad material, add 1.5 inches of gravel across the whole area, and provide a 2-inch thick pavement across there. Everybody kind of put their bids in different formats, so it wasn't really consistent, but I broke it down in this way. Ideal Construction based their bid up of 3,975 square yards, where Riley Brothers provided more area at 4,400 square yards, and Knife River gave us the same at 3,975 yards. So, Ideal and Knife gave us base bids, as you can see right here, where Riley Brothers said, we don't want to pave that thin, we want to pave at least 3.5 inches, so they gave us a base bid right in this area. And all of them, I thought, 1.5 inch of gravel really isn't enough, we wanna add it a little more. If we're gonna build it, let's build it right, and I had them add an additional 400 tons of gravel across the whole thing. Obviously, it's a little more cost, but it's gonna make a stronger pavement. So taking those options, we got a base bid of going from 1.5 inch or 2 inch thick pavement to 3.5 inches of pavement. And then an additional option of adding an additional 400 tons of gravel. This really obviously is the most expensive, but really we're getting a really good quality product, and that's the one I'd recommend. However, we can't really compare apples to apples because they're not bidding the same area. So I took the total cost of each of their bids, divided by the area that they had for pavement, and came up with basically a price per square yard. We use that as our thing to consider as far as awarding the bid. If we're gonna move forward with this project, I'd recommend that we move forward with Riley Brothers bid, because their price per square yard is the lowest. Right about $19 per square yard. That gives us 3.5 inches of asphalt, a good solid thickness of asphalt, about 3.5 to 4 inches of gravel, shape the slope right up to all the buildings, and it'll be a nice quality product for years and years to come.
Question, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Lauren, we're in the highway business, your agency is. Why couldn't we provide the 400 ton of gravel?
Absolutely, we could. But allowing them to do it allows them to shape it and put it in there, so if it doesn't work, it's really on their shoulders. We could provide the gravel, but having them shape it,
Well,
them.
couldn't we provide and have them shape it while we're providing?
Sure we could. But there's really not, we would still have to go out and buy the gravel, and we'd probably buy it from another contractor. And they can haul it a little more economically if they use belly dumps.
Madam Chair, I just had a question too. If we go back to the first map you showed us,
Sure.
I like the second one was better, but I didn't like the sharp angles, so are we gonna round that off there? It kinda like, why do we want all these points and?
That is my rough process I use using Microsoft Word.
Okay,
Microsoft Word isn't really a good mapping
Okay.
tool. That's just me kind of drawing it out. It's not,
so
to
where
scale.
the
It's not AutoCAD.
points
It's not-
are, that would maybe be rounded
you
off
can round
there.
those off. And if you kind of can see in the one below, they kind of use a radius,
Yeah, that's what I
so
see.
that's a smoother one.
Okay.
And that's what we'd actually build in the field. That's just my poor attempt at doing a visual thing for you to look at, so. My AutoCAD skills as the years go on are less and less. Wade kind of does 100% of that now for us, so.
So, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
so the reasoning of leaving the east end of the building open is for the cattle, correct?
Of the east end.
Over here?
Yeah,
Right?
of the expo over on the
The other
the
end.
other side.
The other end, yeah.
Yep,
Because,
yeah, we could absolutely, we could add that. Obviously, it'd come at an additional cost.
right,
But if the facility committee, the board, whoever wants to add stuff, we can sure ask the contractor to modify or revise their quote and add that as an additional option.
Could be slippery though for cattle.
right.
man.
That's why I said if we left it.
We can kind of shrink, and though, and that drawing there, that's really not to scale, that's just to
See
to
down
give you
in
an
here.
idea of what the area. We can add to the north here, you could pave up, if we scroll down to these,
Sure.
we could pave up, up to the grandstand, we could pave in front of these buildings. We can do all that if you want, but each square yard comes at an additional cost.
Cost, right.
Has anybody talked to the Ag Society? Because this is usually where the equipment is put for the fair or the grandstand. Has anybody had any contact with the Ag Society?
Madam Chair, I did have a brief discussion with a member of the Ag Society regarding this, that it is a potential.
Okay. They had any concerns where it was actually laid or not laid?
There was a concern for where the carnival rides may go and of how they get set up. And I just let them know that for this year, if this project was to take place, it would be after the fair is over with. And their concern is they're used to setting up in a specific way and they're already ready to go for that. But this would actually affect next year's
Next
fair
year's.
versus this year.
Go up just a little bit. If you look under the title, you can see the words right on the top right now.
Yep.
I put in the provisions for the quotes, work to be completed after 7/24/21, which allows the Egg Society time to have the fair and then clean up, and then the county kind of takes back over the area.
Okay. My other question, if you would go back to where you have the quotes.
Yep.
And the difference between Ideal Construction, which is located in Todd County, and Riley Brothers, I think it's, what, 56 cents difference? And, you know, positives, negatives, I know their gravel is a little bit cheaper. So were we seeing, the third line down, that would be the, adding the extra,
Did, 400 ton of gravel, but they provided a less area of pavement.
okay.
So, but when we break it down per the square yard,
If we would give them the right to bid the same amount of square yards, would that make a difference on their bid?
it would come in, if they use the same price per
And
square
the thing of
yard.
it is, now you go back after we receive the bids, yeah. Okay,
So, Madam Chair, does Ideal have a hot mix plant?
Yes, they do.
yeah.
They do.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay.
They primarily have done private work over the years, but have reached out into working for counties and
Okay.
cities, and have done a couple projects for us as a subcontractor and do a fantastic job.
Okay.
Where did
Very
they get,
comfortable with any of those.
where did they get the difference in footage and
Yeah, see, Riley's
Riley
just
Brothers
added,
get so much more than,
Knife River was our first to quote, and they quoted, they kind of did their rough estimate. And then Ideal used that square yardage to provide us a quote. But based on when Riley Brothers were out there, they did their own map and they put their map together. That's the one I copied, where we have right here at our second page, so.
okay.
They were a little more in-depth in their calculation.
Lauren, if I can ask a question, sitting on facility with you, you made the comment at one of our gatherings that Knife River is already here doing the work, so they would have no problem coming over and doing this. Are the other two on board to get it done in that time frame as well? Okay.
Yep. That's why initially I would have thought that Knife River would be here, it'd be closer, but
Right. Okay.
the others knew that. I mean, they are in the industry, so they know where people are placing their plants, but they provided a lower quote.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure they met that time frame too.
Absolutely, yep, that's part of it, yep.
Okay.
And it should be noted, I think, in most of those quotes, if we scroll up to the top, and we can look, let's go one up farther to, yep, right there, scroll down a little bit, to Riley Brothers, and they put it in the note right here.
Yep, I see it.
To be completed right there, so.
Well, Madam Chair, to me, the 1.5 inches, or what is it, to start with, they had 1.5?
2 inches.
2 inches is
Yep.
ridiculous, because that's not gonna support some of the weight that's gonna be out there. So we should be looking at least 3 inches, I think, of pavement.
Yeah, it'll last longer.
Yeah, and so that's something we need to take into consideration. Now, I haven't heard during any of this conversation where the money would come from.
So if we scroll down
Okay.
to the next one, I put together a option for the board to consider a board action form, and I put it for next board meeting, the 15th. That could come at any time, I just put a date down there, and I put down there, in the financial implications, the award to Riley Brothers, for $83,000, and I put general fund facilities fund. But that was my next topic of conversation, if the board wanted to go through with it, where should we have this as an option? And then I'll kind of hand it over to Chris.
Okay. Thank you, Lauren. Madam Chair and Commissioners, we are receiving funds from the federal government, the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds. We have certified for those funds. We have not received them yet, but we should hear, I would hope, this week or soon. We did receive guidelines from the federal government on how funds can be used. The funds are flexible to be used for COVID And with us having the vaccination clinics out at the expo building, we know that has caused way more wear and tear on that parking lot than what we would normally see. In my conversations with Lauren, there's other options that can be done out there. You could put different types of fill in, but long-term, in order for this parking lot to be not maintained as often as it has been, I mean, it's been quite a bit of a mess out there with the vaccination clinic. I do feel this might be an acceptable use of those funds. I have an email into NACO and into the U.S. Treasury to see if this would be an allowable expense, and I would hope that I would have an answer back before we bring this forward.
Well, Madam Chair, if I may, COVID is great because we're gonna get them funds, and I think it was supposed to be for infrastructure too, am I correct, that part?
It can be.
The thing that I saw when I was out there one day was somebody trying to push a wheelchair through that gravel. And he almost had to pull it rather than push it.
Yeah.
So it was not good. So that could be part of our statements in relation to COVID and our vaccinations, so.
And Madam Chair, we are unsure what's going to happen this fall, if there may be some type of additional vaccination clinics out there due to, the younger ages coming through. There may be a food distribution that happens out there. We did see that happen with COVID, so.
If I may, you kind of stole my thunder
Okay,
there.
I'm sorry.
Well, my next comment was gonna be, with a lot of that,
I just got scolded, didn't I?
that rutting and then the pavement with the concrete, it's kind of a step up. I think with this, now we can get that all sloped appropriately up to where the door is, and it can kind of become more of an ADA compliant facility. I spoke with Mitch Johnson, our facilities director, this morning about, striping the parking lot, and at least next to the expo building on the north side, we can stripe those for, ADA compliant,
The
spots,
handicap,
and have them
yeah.
wide enough, and have the, blue signs with the handicap parking, so to speak. So it'll be a big improvement.
Madam Chair, if I can add also, I mean, one of the reasons why we're having a meeting out there this evening is just to allow for that larger space, allow for the social distancing. Even though that's been lifted, we still have to be mindful of the pandemic. So,
Any other questions or concerns?
I have one, and that would be just make sure there's barriers so nobody drives into the building.
We talked about that, and we would probably buy some of those, I don't know, like those little removable curbs.
Yep.
They're kind of shaped 6
Yep.
inches high, and you can drill those down into the pavement.
Yeah,
So we'd probably set those all up along the building.
okay.
Yep.
Yep.
We don't want people skidding into the building,
No,
but they'll have to be marked for when we're out there plowing.
right.
I would rather see the pipes because that way people couldn't trip over them.
We could do that too.
During the fair, the pipes would be more, I think, visible.
Yep.
And yellow painted. That's what I'd like to see.
Okay.
We get some 6-inch yellow drill pipe or
Yeah.
something. Yep, and fill them full.
Mhm.
So
Might be a good sense to serve project, if we
Sure.
could assist in that.
we will continue on with this, and we'll probably see it at the next board meeting then. And that would be June 15th, I believe, is the next board meeting.
Would you like me to bring this back, or should we discuss it at a facilities meeting again, or?
Madam Chair, I just want to make sure, you said we have not received the funds yet.
we have not.
So I just don't want to make a decision prior to receiving funds. If we don't have when are we going to receive the
She doesn't
funds?
know.
When they get released.
So,
We
I
made
don't
the
like approving
application.
I'm sorry, go
So
ahead.
if I may,
Yep.
before you get into that, the contractor, at least Knife River, is gonna be here on July 4th.
Okay.
They've got about 4 weeks of paving to do. So if we're gonna do that, we should get it sometime in July. I just put June 15th as a number. That can easily be changed.
So we might wait till the funds are actually here and then bring it into the board packet.
Yep, Madam Chair, other counties who certified the same time we did, they've started to receive their funds, so I would anticipate we would have them by the end of this week. But I also would like to have an answer from the U.S. Treasury on uses of the funds to make sure that this is an allowable use.
And do we have another facility meeting before? Well, we might not.
We don't have a scheduled facilities meeting, but we have in the past, if something has come up, we've called a meeting.
And the
so-
other is I would like to have, if the Ag Society would have any comments, I would like to be able to have their comments shared with the board.
Madam Chair, my only reservation is spending the money before we have it, so
Yep.
I just don't think we should jump before we have, it's probably putting the cart before the horse, so. I'm all for it, but I'm just saying,
We'll just kind of watch it as it,
yeah, if it comes in, I have no
Progresses.
problem, but.
okay. And then if we have a bunch of other comments, we might have to have a facility meeting, otherwise we will see it at a board meeting at the appropriate time.
So, Madam Chair, just
Yes.
one question. Our sales tax, is there any way we could use that, or is that already spent?
We could, but I think sales tax, the way I read it, is
Does it
more
have to
for
be for roads?
transportation and the
Okay,
roads.
all right.
Yep.
And if we would do that, we'd have to have another public hearing.
Yep.
And add this type of project to our list.
Okay,
It's gotta be on our project list.
thought I'd ask.
Good
Thanks.
question.
Okay. Any more questions for Lauren? Thank you.
Excellent, thank you, have a wonderful day. And see you tonight?
Yes,
Great.
tonight, 7 o'clock at the Expo Building.
All right.
6:45, make it.
Bring beer.
That'd be nice. Good morning.
Good morning, Adam.
Good morning. Okay. So I'm here this morning just to kind of start a discussion about some of the commercial septic systems around the county. I had a conversation with Dave a couple weeks ago. There are some countryside restaurants that are probably looking to upgrade their systems in the near future. And obviously this is of extreme expense and these are difficult times. So to figure out avenues to hopefully get these updated, but also provide some assistance or time or something to bring them into compliance. I had a conversation with Aaron with the MPCA about these type of systems. Prior to being with MPCA, Aaron was in Crow Wing County and they went through, he was a perfect contact because they've actually had this situation in Crow Wing County. So a couple of suggestions that he had for us to actually start the discussion was to look at the Crow Wing County ordinance, which I have their little section here, and then also see about opening up our low interest loan program for commercial septic systems. So the first step I took was to call our contacts at MPCA related to our septic loan program, and we don't even need to make any changes to our agreement with MPCA. If any commercial operation wanted to take advantage of our county loan, as long as they're meeting the qualifications, we don't even need to make any changes. We can just issue those loans at 1.5% interest, just the same as any homeowner. So that piece of it's already covered. The next piece is potentially some ordinance updates. The way that Crow Wing handles theirs is that if a compliance inspection is triggered through a land transfer or something were to come up, that you need to do the compliance inspection, but you also need to test the effluent from the facility, and if it's exceeding what the rule allows, it allows 3 years to then update it. But if the inspector finds that the effluent is actually below what the rule allows, then you can just update the system or install it just as any other, just to meet the sizing of the structure. There's nothing in the rule that says that restaurants have high-strength waste and that's just an automatic. But it allows the restaurant to prove to the county that they don't have high-strength waste and then install a much, much less expensive system. If that effluent is exceeding what the rule allows, it allows 3 years to update it. And that's how Crow Wing handles it. I don't think there's a way around having to have pre-treatment or anything like that, but what it does is it allows a much more significant frame of time to get the system installed. That's what I've learned so far, and I really wanted to open this up to a discussion of what you guys thought and then potentially bring this to the Planning Commission for some more intense review and potential ordinance amendments to insert something into our ordinance that would assist these commercial operations.
When you're talking commercial, I mean, there's more commercial out there than just the restaurants or cooking.
Sure.
There's a lot of other commercial businesses out in a rural area. This would take the whole gap of all the commercial, no matter
Correct.
restaurant or non-restaurant?
Yeah, if there was, some sort of business park out in the countryside that didn't have a restaurant, pretty good chance they're not gonna have high-strength waste, but they meet this commercial thing, they can prove that to us, and then they don't have to get that really super expensive pre-treatment, oversized system, multiple tanks, anything like that. Yeah, it allows them an opportunity to kind of skirt those
And they
rules.
would all be qualified for the low
Correct.
interest?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, Madam Chair, if I may, it affects one of my constituents in my area, the Rock Tavern in particular. They want to do a little expansion, and that's what triggered the inspection and requirements of the MPCA on their septic system. It's a small business, doesn't have a lot of seating capacity. And what concerns me is on a 1.5% interest, what's the terms, what's the length of the,
10 years.
and so my concern in that category is, can a small business support that? With the, well, number one, trying to find help, and number two, clientele, and is usually, this is a seasonal place usually, in the summer more business than in the winter usually. That may be different, but that's just the way I look at it. And the other thing is, affordability is whether they can do it or not. And she just talked with me about, we'd love to do it, but we can't afford to do it. So the other question I have, Adam, is who does the inspection of the strength of the, what'd you call it? The, what's coming out of
The effluent,
Yeah.
the discharge.
What-
It probably have to be somebody that's at least an intermediate or advanced inspector. I don't think that a beginner, like anybody from the county, could do that because it's just above what we are certified at.
So somebody from where?
Stearns County, I think, has an advanced inspector. Otherwise, there are advanced inspectors, contractors in the area. We have some around.
Okay. And the business owner's telling me if she has to go through all this, it's questionable whether she can even conduct a
Sure,
business.
yeah.
So, I think to support our small businesses, I'm trying to think of some way we can do that. So I'm gonna go over to the new COVID funding. Is there any way we can help our small businesses with this kind of a situation? I'm assuming, and I've heard maybe Commissioner Newman is gonna have the same situation in his district with some expansion,
Correct.
which is probably gonna trigger the same issues, so I'm just asking, and these are most likely rural. What happens if you're like within the city of Long Prairie or city of Staples or,
I think they'd be tied into the city system.
okay. Is there any special requirements for them?
That is above and beyond what my knowledge base would be.
Okay,
I think they get their engineers involved. Sorry.
Madam Chair, it's actually what's the most expensive is the pre-treat,
right.
because the amount of grease and stuff that these businesses are using, and that's the biggest cost, is pre-treating it before they pump her up into the mound. And there's gotta be a way around this, because there's a lot of counties in rural Minnesota that, they gotta have that system. So,
And I think that was what Crowing was trying to get to, was how do we avoid that pre-treatment piece?
exactly.
And if you could prove that you're not exceeding that, that CBOD, which stands for carbonaceous biochemical oxygen demand, if you're not exceeding whatever that level is in the rule, that you don't have to have the pre-treatment then.
Right,
outside of
because
that.
these guys can't afford a $25,000, $30,000 system. And I know I have a couple of resorts in my district that have paid that, 25, 30,000, just to treat their sewage.
And how many years ago was that?
Oh, I suppose Hedda Lakes was 8, 10.
Yeah, and that same system today would be
Yeah.
significantly
Probably
more,
more.
probably even. So So I can keep digging into funding options, and Chris and I don't know, we can look into the COVID stuff, and I'd be glad to bring this back to another work session before bringing it to the planning commission. Just wanted to kind of give an update. David asked me to come to the work session here on where I'm at with it, and we'll keep searching for options. And I can have more conversations with Aaron too. But in the immediate, if somebody, I mean, we do have funding options at least to start.
The other question I have is, what's the chances of a small supper club like this passing that test?
I don't know. I've never been involved with any sort of effluent
Sometimes they can set
testing.
them so that you can't pass them, so that's why I'm questioning
Sure.
whether this is
Yeah.
a way to approach it or not, because I don't know what they look for, how many grams or centimeter, whatever they're looking for.
Yeah,
Do you know, Ron?
a little bit. We had it done when we were involved with that, and I don't remember who came. Somebody came and did our testing for us, the ones that they said to come there or had to come there. And then they take samples out of your tanks, is what they do, and then they test that and go from there. So the only way to make it a little bit better for yourself is to try to flush it as best as you can prior to that or whatever. But in reality, it's whatever you're doing. Like if you're saving as much as your grease instead of washing it down the sinks, you know, cleaning out the pans really good and stuff like that, people tend to just do it, you know, quickly and then run everything else down. Well, that'll raise your counts way up. So a lot of it is how it's handled right at the restaurant or at the thing too. So, but again, you still get it because of so much of it used there. But
Well, sometimes the state makes it almost impossible for you to pass those tests, and you know what I mean, is by setting the bar so high that
Yep.
it doesn't even work for them, so. The, supper club that I'm dealing with is really concerned because they're new owners and wanna open up and, well, they probably are open, but now they wanna expand and you
Yep.
put in a bigger freezer unit, cause they're going across the road now. They wanna put it on the same side of the road, so it's just a matter of whether they can afford it or not.
Yep.
And if they can't, I guess we're gonna see a small business probably not even open, so.
and I'm taking it for granted that you were writing this all down. And being it's business, will it maybe fall under infrastructure type stuff, even though it's rural?
So, Madam Chair, there are, with this new funding, there are, we can create grant programs for small businesses. Part of this funding is for economic hardship due to COVID for small businesses, so we can look to see how we could use this. But we have to somehow relate it to economic hardship due to
Well,
COVID.
Any of these supper clubs have an economic issue with COVID because they couldn't open, for one thing. Number two, their capacity was limited. And number three, they're just getting back to getting started. When are they gonna be able to get back on their feet financially? So I think it should qualify. And if it does, I would recommend this board put away a chunk of this money for rural businesses that have to go through this situation. You know,
The interesting thing we found about even with our business is as it's set for months on end, we had to have people come in and do a roto-rooter just to unblock the pipes because nothing had
Nothing
been
was moving,
used.
yeah,
And nothing had been used. So how many people were facing the same issue just because of non-use?
business.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I've made note of all of those items, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris, or Adam, did you send that to us,
This
Yeah.
ordinance piece?
yeah,
I can shoot it in an email.
yeah, would you?
Yeah.
I'd like to
Yeah.
read it.
Yep, I only clipped the one little section that pertained to this, so I can scan this and share it with you guys right away.
Yeah. But I would appreciate still working on this.
Yeah.
So we
Yep.
can help these
Yeah,
folks.
I'd like to find an option that this is a huge expense and very troublesome for these businesses around the county, so.
So, Madam Chair, what's Otter Tail doing?
I can check in with them.
They got a ton of
Yeah. I will
businesses
call,
out in the middle of nowhere, yeah.
I talk with Chris Leclerc, their director up there quite often, so I can ask him for sure.
And are you aware, is there any state grants that are available to these businesses? A lot of times there's grants available and people don't know to apply.
There very well could be. A lot of the grants that we tend to work with are for private, from the county to the private landowner type of thing. But there are business loans out there, and maybe Rick might be a good person to talk to about that and see what's out there.
Might be something
Yep.
out there.
Well, again, it's an issue of whether they can afford to pay the grant or loan even back, because when you're starting out all over almost, you don't even know what your income's gonna be in these small businesses. So it's just maybe enough to keep the lights on, keep the supper club open,
Yep.
and that's it. But so, when you talk about loans, and even at 1.5% interest, I get a little nervous, because
Sure.
whether they can afford that or not is questionable.
Sure.
So,
Hey, Madam Chair, I agree with you, Dave, because you look at the price of lumber right now, and if they're gonna do a little expansion, their main concern right now is expansion, not so much the septic. And then if they wanna do the expansion, it's the other end on the sewer.
well, they're riding right on the edge, so.
Yeah.
Well, we'll keep searching for answers here, and hopefully next work session I'll come back with a little bit of additional information.
Okay.
All right, very good. I'll send this to you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that should end the work session if nothing else is to be brought.